Purple Eagles Weekly is brought to you by Ad Pro Sports Elite Team Gear, Wendy's Old Fashioned Hamburgers, Steve Baldo Ford in Niagara Falls, Crown Plaza Hotel Niagara Falls, the official hotel of Niagara Athletics, and by Pepsi.
Good evening and welcome to Purple Eagles Weekly here on Time Warner Cable Sports Net as we check in with NU Athletics for the week. And throughout this season, we've checked in with a number of different athletes, a number of different characters inside the Niagara program and the extended family. And today's show coming up, we'll check in with men's golf, do a little bit of a media roundtable, and we'll start off with a very familiar face, an athlete, as well as a character, a persona inside the Purple Eagles program. I'm speaking of senior Brian Trogett of the cross-country team, but also coordinator of the end zone. We'll get to that in a minute because that's probably, my guess, what you're best known for.
Probably.
But let's talk about the cross-country team and the season and how you've done individually. So tell us about your season and what this senior season of yours brought.
We had a great season. We've been developing the program for a couple of years now. I started as a walk-on my sophomore year, having never run cross-country, just being a midfielder in many sports. So I've learned to run along the way, and I've become one of the top 5 guys on the team. And this senior year, we had a great group of seniors who worked really hard to build the program up, and we had a pretty good season overall.
And you have a year of eligibility still left?
Correct.
And the plan is?
Plan is, Mom keeps asking, but I'm pretty sure I'll be returning to Niagara for an MBA next year.
So more running in your future?
One more year.
All right. Well, you like running, obviously, but you also run something else. You're the coordinator of the end zone. For anyone that's been to the Gallagher Center, The end zone is the place where the students sit and try and get as crazy as possible. How did you get into that spot?
I started off my freshman year just being one of those freshmen that loved going to the games and being really active, and it kind of evolved. I started helping out. There was a coordinator before me, and I became friends with him, and between working with him and then getting myself involved with athletics, I just kind of built myself into the spot.
And what kind of passion have you seen from Niagara students for that spot in that building?
Oh, there's a huge passion for it. Kids get to the games early, and people just love being at the games to have a good time. It's another thing to do on the weekends, and it's a way to meet people and cheer on at Niagara Athletics.
And as I mentioned, maybe I'm being presumptuous saying that that's what you're best known for, but as you go around campus for maybe new students, are you just, hey, it's the end zone guy? Or
yeah.
That happens?
And not even just on campus, but walking through Tops or Wegmans, local community members will tell me we did a great job, or they enjoy having the students be so much fun.
How much do you hear from the players about it?
Oh, the players, they're good friends of mine. I've met them through my times, classes and whatnot, and they appreciate it so much, be it hockey or basketball. They always say, they love it. And, when I think we just saw some footage of us dressed up as referees for one of the games, and Coach Mahalik actually, after that game, comes up to me and says, right before we went live for the game, I brought in the huddle, and one of the assistants told me to look down at the end zone, and you guys were warming up and stretching just like the refs, and everyone in the huddle just started laughing up, and he enjoyed it so much. So they all appreciate it, and it just makes the place more fun.
So with a year of eligibility left for the cross-country team, how's eligibility work for the end zone and coordinating that?
Well, I got to start finding a successor. So, there's a couple students out there that are possibly looking to fill the spot. So I'll start to wean myself out and get them into the position.
And pass the torch. And for you,
Exactly.
The future is in the field of marketing. If someone were to see what you do with the end zone, I think it'd be an easy guess to say probably into marketing.
Right, exactly. I've always kind of had a passion for marketing and advertising in some degree, and the internship that I basically have with the athletics department in doing the end zone coordination kind of is a major marketing role. I work with the external department, have weekly meetings on how we're going to promote the game, be it social media, text messages, videos, or I even coordinate with the coaches themselves.
And the last internship you had also with BlackBerry. Tell us about that, because it's a company, Research in Motion, that plenty of people have heard about. And to work, I think, with such a big company probably gave you invaluable experience in the field of marketing.
Yeah. I appreciated the opportunity so much. I've always kind of been a closet nerd and loved social media and technology and things like that. So getting the opportunity to work for such a huge company and, one of the best technology companies out there was awesome. I lived in Dallas and got real-world experience, waking up, being at work at 8 a.m. every day, and living on my own.
So a guy that's so much into marketing and is obviously a big sports fan, is that the ultimate dream, is to find a way to mesh the two?
That's definitely a possibility. I've always said that I love sports. I've always played various sports throughout my life, and we'll see what comes of it. I definitely wouldn't say I'm not going to.
All right, Brian Schragott, senior from the cross-country team and also the end zone coordinator. Best of luck passing that torch, and we'll see you around the end zone, right?
You'll see me around. Still, with that one more year, we'll make sure to have a good time.
All right, we'll see you at the Gallagher Center for that. Coming up next on Purple Eagles Weekly, our media roundtable with mid-majors making noise in college basketball. There's reason to think the future of Niagara basketball could be very bright. Welcome back here, Purple Eagles Weekly on Time Warner Cable Sportsnet. A bit of a media roundtable on tap for you next as I'm joined by Roddy McKissick of the Buffalo News and Jonah Bronstein of the Niagara Gazette. And gentlemen, I think a perfect thing to start talking about for our little time here is mid-major college basketball. With Butler making the title game 2 years in a row, VCU made a run to the Final Four. I think any Niagara fan would just naturally start to think about, hey, how could Niagara get to that level? And I guess what the future of mid-major college basketball really holds.
Yeah, it's possible. You have a team in Butler who's been building toward this for quite a few years now. I'd say about 10 to 12 years now, where they just come in and they're competitive in their league, and then they start knocking off teams on the mid-major level, winning their conference, and then all of a sudden they start making noise in the NCAA tournament. So it's possible for Niagara to do the same.
Hey, Jeremy, it goes to show how things can snowball. If you have some success and you build on that success, good seasons bring in new good players that lead to better seasons and bigger accomplishments, which is what Butler has done, and Gonzaga did that about a decade ago.
What do you think has been the driving force behind the rise of the mid-majors? Some make the case that it's players stay longer. Some say that it's just the talent is a little bit more spread than it was before. Anything specifically for either one of you?
I think your second point, the talent is spreading out a little bit more, where about 20 years ago teams had 15 scholarships, and now it's down to 13. And so Ohio State can't stash away guys with the 13th, 14th, or 15th scholarship. More of those players are going to places like VCU and Bowling Green and of course, Gonzaga and Butler.
That's the main factor. I think we might be seeing more, not better coaches, but more good coaches. Somebody like Brand Stevens, you didn't see him at a mid-major program, or you didn't see a program led by a coach like that 10, 15 years ago having this kind of success. And these guys are coming up quicker and making waves quicker.
I think another point that could be brought in there is last season, you think about Rob Garrison and Bilal Ben, two guys that transferred in from Big East schools, and it's kind of the point about the scholarships. A lot of kids just want to play. Right. And I think as you start to see Butler and VCU and these teams really start to make more headlines, maybe a player who thinks, well, I want to be on the big stage thinks, I can get there at that level. So maybe even the other mid-majors succeeding can snowball for the rest of the mid-majors. And I guess you have to start to wonder if this is the new landscape of college basketball.
It seems to be that way because not only did you have Butler, you had VCU, of course. George Mason made his run a couple of years ago, and they got into the tournament again this year and knocked somebody off. So you're going to see a lot more, I think, of more mid-majors going out and getting to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and maybe even a national championship.
And I think a mid-major might be recruiting a slightly different type of player, somebody that's looking to, the pinnacle of their career would be to make the Final Four, whereas John Wall, the pinnacle of his career is going to be to make the NBA Finals, and if he wins a national championship on the way, great.
Well, let's talk about this Niagara basketball team, where they are, because it was a bit of a down year, but there was massive turnover, a lot of young players on the team, a lot of freshmen contributing. What do you think Joe got out of this year's team? There was so much talk about the leadership from the very, very small portion of upperclassmen. So what happens from this point? I mean, Anthony Nelson leaves, and now you've got such a young team. What's next for this basketball program?
Well, the good thing about this year is they got a lot of experience. The freshmen got a lot of experience, and they were able to learn behind a guy like Anthony Nelson, who's one of the best players ever come out of the program. So I think things are going to be bright for Niagara. Joe Mahalik is a great coach. Now he's got a young team, and I think down the road you're going to see these young guys get into the tournament.
And I think with the players that played this year and will be coming back and will be becoming upperclassmen in a year or two, I think this really toughened them up, gave them a chip on their shoulder that you're going to see manifest itself when they're juniors and seniors.
Well, when you look at the landscape of college basketball in Western New York, where does Niagara fit in? Because in Western New York, I think most people would say there's not a really huge college basketball program, but there are a few programs in Niagara, Canisius, and UB, and obviously St. Bonaventure as well, that have a really strong fan base, that have really strong fans, and there's a history here that goes back quite a long way. And I think when you go to the Gallagher Center, you tend to see that in the demographics. You look around and you see older fans. You see real college basketball fans that have been here for quite a long time.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you think of Niagara basketball, you think of consistency. You know they're going to get between 16 and 20 wins every year. It didn't happen this year because the team was so young, but under Coach Mahalik, it's all about consistency and winning.
I think in a little bit, Rodney, maybe you could answer this better, but Niagara is a bit of a hidden gem locally in that people in the South Towns and some people in the city aren't going to make that commute up to Lewiston and don't quite know how entertaining it can be to watch a game at the Gallagher Center. With the success Niagara has, it does seem to me like popularity-wise they're not at the same place that UB, Bonna, and even Canisius is in some years.
But an atmosphere, maybe right on the level with any one of those teams. I mean, the Gallagher Center is a small building. It's an intimate building. It's funny, if you think about college basketball, it's such an emotion-based sport. Like, the national championship game is being played in Reliant Stadium. You know, these games are being played in football stadiums where, yeah, there's a lot of people, but to really get in the heads of an opponent, sometimes it might take a place like the Gallagher Center.
Absolutely. Gallagher Center, the Riley Center down at St. Bonaventure, and their students are just totally crazy down at Bonna. But I think Niagara is right there. That the end zone is a good place to get live, get active, and that student section is always loud over there.
Yeah, I had never been to the Gallagher Center before I began covering the team 4.5 years ago, and I had been told, you know, it's quite an experience. And I thought, I've been there for practice. It looks like a high school gym. But it gets very loud in there, and the energy it's contagious.
How about the level of access that you guys get or that fans get when it comes to the players or the coaches? You know, if you're talking about a smaller program in a smaller building, it seems that as someone that follows the team, you might get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. I mean, the access has been great. When I first started to beat, I remember Coach Mahalik saying, well, make sure you call in before you come to practice because I might have to say something to the kids that you probably don't want to hear. But I covered Bob Huggins of Cincinnati.
Another segment coming up here on Purple Eagles Weekly. When we get back, we'll talk about social media and share some memories of Niagara athletics and days gone by. That's coming up next here on Purple Eagles Weekly. Back here on Purple Eagles Weekly on Time Warner Cable Sports Net. Jeremy White with Rodney McKissick and Jonah Bronstein here. And we're talking about Niagara athletics and remembering days gone by now. We talked about where the program might be going in the future. How about favorite memories at the Gallagher Center or other programs for that matter? I know, Jonah, you do a lot of human interest stories as well with the Purple Eagles. So if there's one moment you pick out in the last however many years of covering this program, what is it that jumps out about Niagara athletics?
Well, for me, anytime Niagara plays Canisius in basketball, it's always intense. It's always a great game. It usually doesn't end, or the game isn't decided until the end of the game, the final seconds. And the last time they met in the Gallagher Center, that was the case.
My favorite memories are, as you mentioned, getting to know the players over the years, especially when you get to see them rise from freshmen to seniors. As far as games, winning the play-in game in Dayton back in 2007 was very memorable. It was such a unique experience to be there for that event. And the semifinal win over Ryder in the MAC tournament 2 years ago when Tyrone Lewis banked in the half-court shot to tie it, that was the greatest game I've covered live, and very memorable.
It wasn't quite half-court.
Well, yeah, right.
I think you're giving Tyrone some help.
It's going to be full court 10 years from now.
Well, his range, one of the best players in Niagara history, Tyrone Lewis, in terms of his ability to, he had the vertical leap to rebound like a big man. He had the speed of a guard. He had the shot. His range was half court. In terms of me, in my memory, he'll be one of my favorite players that I'll remember. Bilal Ben, another one, because he was Mr. Do Everything. How about favorite players over the course of your careers?
Love Sharon Fisher. He was always having fun out there, always scoring, never playing defense, never passing, but he was going to score it, and he was always a lot of fun.
Anthony Nelson, because of the year they had, because he was overshadowed by older players in his first 3 years, people might not really realize the personality that he had, the personality that he played with. But we saw that a little bit when he had the triple-double against Marist at the Gallagher Center, and he's doing the Aaron Rodgers title belt, I'll remember that, and I'll remember that Anthony was one of the more colorful people on the team, even though you didn't quite see it with all the losing this season.
How about the era of social media when it comes to sports reporting and when it comes to collegiate athletics? Because I think you have a better opportunity to reach alumni. You have a better opportunity to reach people that aren't necessarily in the area and might not get access to your reporting. So have you noticed, or have you tried to take advantage of those social outlets, be it Twitter or whatever it might be?
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook. I think it's a lot better because before you would file a story, and if you like to break news, I like to break news. So when you file a story for the newspaper, you'd have to wait and hope that the competitor didn't get the story. But now you put it on Twitter, you put it on Facebook right away.
And it also works on the other end of gathering news. If you happen to be Facebook friends with a source or follow them on Twitter, not only might you get information out of that, but you get a better sense of who they are, their personality, and what type of things they do off the floor, and that you can feed into feature stories and really just understanding who they are, and that helps with the coverage.
And if you asked Joe Mahalik about Twitter, he'd probably tell you he didn't know what it was. But I mean, that's
right.
like the standard answer for most coaches. But I want to ask you about Joe going forward, too, because, when you talk about the program, you talk about who's coming in, what they're learning. It seems like Joe is as much of an institution as the program is. I mean, he's so well respected around the circles of college basketball, and his ability to get the Philadelphia pipeline in over and over again. I think it's a real testament to just how much he's respected.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope he stays here as long as he can because he's just a joy to work with, always accessible. He brings in great players, good kids. They win a lot of basketball games, so I hope he's around for a long time.
And he's figured out exactly how to win at Niagara and exactly how to win in the Metro Atlantic Conference. And that, put those two things together, and that's why you have such a successful program.
A little piece of history coming up as well. We've got a question to wrap up our media roundtable. Favorite Calvin Murphy suit? We're going to show a couple of suits here on the monitor and get your opinions, which one you prefer. There's the purple. There's option 1 is the purple, and option number 2 is the So
I think he got those suits in Buffalo on Bailey Avenue somewhere. I don't think he got those in the fall.
No?
I don't think so.
Would make Don Cherry proud with some of those suits. So what do you think, purple or the gold?
I'm going to go with the purple.
I'm going to go with, I think that was ivory.
Ivory?
Because I saw it in person, and it was resplendent. It was a sight to behold.
Bone white.
Well, maybe we'll get some of those for us next time we do the media roundtable.
That's all right.
All right, gentlemen, thanks for joining us so much. Coming up next, we'll check in with the men's golf team coming up as we wrap up this edition of Purple Eagles Weekly on Time Warner Cable Sportsnet. Back here on Purple Eagles Weekly, my thanks to Jonah Bronstein and Rodney McKissick. And on to the athletics portion of the show. We'll speak with head coach Kevin Miller, the men's golf team here. And fall season is over. Spring season begins as the weather turns, or at least slowly turns. So what did we get out of the golf team in the fall season, and what to expect in the spring season?
Well, the fall is usually a good time for me to look at a lot of the freshmen coming in, see where they might fit into the program, see who's going to be a future leader out of that group of young kids that are coming in. And usually it leads them into their summer. They're excited about it, and usually they can't wait to come back in the spring. So
a leader on a golf team, is that someone who leads with work ethic, leads with attention to detail? Because it's a team sport, but obviously you have an individual game.
That's right. It is a team sport, but who's the individual that's going to be at the range the longest? Who's going to be early to practice? Who's the student that somebody else might go to ask a question to? That's the type of leader that I look for and try to develop into maybe the team captain as the season goes on.
And who have you identified as maybe players to watch in that type of role that you have already on the team?
Yeah, I have a couple of young guys, maybe Anthony DeBacco, possibly Zach Clark, freshman that came in this year. I still have Trevor Kenny, who's a junior, and he'll be back next year, but probably in a different role next year. So,
talk to us about the Little 3 tournament. You guys were able to host that. What was that like?
Yes, Little 3. It's very nice because it's a local tournament for us. We're just down the street. We got a lot of play this year from people on campus. The students came by. Something that we don't get a lot of if we're playing in Bradford or even one of the Canisius courses that we play at. But it's a great thing because it is close to home and we get a lot of support. So that's the biggest thing. And
how about on the way? You've got the MAC championships in Florida. How do you match up? What will you watch for in terms of the level of competition, where does the Niagara golf team stack up?
Sure. One of the things that I like to do in the spring is we play a couple of tournaments where we have other MAC teams actually at the tournament. Most of ours are anywhere between 12 and 15 teams, and so to get 2 or 3 MAC schools in there is a nice way to take a look at them, to see who their new players are, what types of scores they're shooting as well. We did have an opportunity to play Magnolia, which is where the tournament will be, earlier in the spring when we were down in Florida. We ran over and played a practice round there, so that was kind of nice. So hopefully everybody that is going to be coming this spring will have already played the course and look forward to some good rounds.
Golf in Florida sounds kind of nice. And one more question. When
Sure.
we talked to Coach Wynn of the tennis team, I asked if he was able to ever play tennis, and he said not really. Are you ever able to play golf? And do you play golf to relax, to kick back, or is it so much of your job that sometimes you just kind of like to get away from it?
Well, I do enjoy playing golf myself. I belong to one of the local clubs in the area, Niagara Frontier Country Club. And so I play a lot during the summer. But September, October, and March and April is pretty much dedicated to the team, and don't do a lot of traveling because of that. So I really try to focus on the players and trying to develop them.
Well, best of luck this season, and best of luck at the MAC Championships down in Florida.
Very good.
Head
Thank
coach
you.
Kevin Miller of the men's golf team here on Purple Eagles Weekly. Thanks to our other guests here on the show, Brian Truggett, and of course, Rodney McKissick and Jonah Bronstein. That's it for this edition of Purple Eagles Weekly. Next week, our final show of the season. Don't miss it. We'll see you then.